Hello, this game is the instructional video for the Snakes and Ladders board game. This game is designed based on an ancient Indian game that was meant to teach morality. You may have heard of Chutes and Ladders, if you're a fan of SpongeBob, Eels and Escalators. But the key thing is that there's ideas connected to morality. If you act badly, you ride the snake down and fall behind. And if you act morally, you climb the ladder and advance forward. And I think it's interesting because you'll note that there are more ways to do bad things than to do good things. So it was kind of this tendency of, to look at human nature and say, yeah, we have a hard time being good. It's a competitive game for 2 to 4 players. Several groups can play at the same time as long as each group has their own materials. And you can switch out the question cards for ones of your own making if you like. And it's a pretty simple game, but you'll need a board. And I'll come back and explain a little bit more about how the board works momentarily. You need a deck of question cards. And what happens is if you land on a space that leads to a question card, the next person whose turn it would be reads the question to you. And the reason is because I've marked what are the correct answers there. And the questions that come with the game are related to India, because that was the section I designed this game for. But like I said, you could put any questions in there. It helps to have a 6-sided dice and maybe something, or you need a 6-sided dice and maybe something to roll it in. And I have this house rule: if it hits the floor, it should be re-rolled. And the game's pretty simple. You start at the start. A person rolls a dice and they go that many spaces forward. If you land on a neutral space, so space without any word on it, the next person takes their turn. If you land on a vice space, so you can see there's 2 vices right off the bat: disobedience and vanity. The next person asks you a question. If you answer the question incorrectly, you go back along the space. So if you land on space 4, vice, disobedience, and you answer a question incorrectly, you go to 2. If you land on the space vice, vanity, that's space 5, and you answer the question incorrectly, you go down to 3. If you answer it correctly, nothing happens. You just aren't penalized. If you land on a virtue space, the same thing happens in that another person will ask you the question. Right? You don't ask it yourself because the answers are there. And if you get that correct, you would then take the ladder down to the next space. So if we land on virtue faith and get that question correct, you would go down to space 12. So you get the advance. If you miss the question, nothing bad happens. So the vices and virtues, I just took from the Wikipedia page about this. So these are like translations of what the original ancient Indian game would have used. You can certainly, if you would like, you can substitute other vices or virtues if you so chose. I just wanted to follow theirs. The first person to the moksha square becomes spiritually liberated and wins the game. So moksha is the term for enlightenment in ancient Hinduism, and it was symbolized by a swan, and I like birds, so that's why there is a swan there as the picture. Just as an aside, the snake graphic is something I took from one of the original board games that is available. If you look it up on Wikipedia, you'll see it very clearly. I couldn't find good ladders, so that's actually from a Japanese ukiyo-e print. So hopefully a fun game that your students will enjoy. If they can play through it really quickly, and so sometimes I just give them a time limit, say, hey, play for 20 minutes, or hey, play 3 games, then you're done.